leaving one's home inevitably involves exploring unknown territory. From the outside, a host country may appear to be a paradise, but for migrants, especially migrants that are women, it may be a harsh place to live. There are various critical risks that women migrants could be getting within their host country.
The first risk is direct physical and sexual assault. In prostitution, women experience a lot of violence working as a sex worker. They were beaten and forced to do a lot of grotesque things in order to satisfy their clients' needs. Keeping in mind as they are being forced into prostitution, women have no choice but to comply being in sexual situations. Therefore, all the sexual acts are considered as sexual assault. Second, women experience physiological abuse while working as a prostitute. Women are subject to trauma and several mental disorders when working in prostitution due to the power dynamics imposed on them with their traffickers and their clients. They are also very likely prone to being raped in consideration of sexual circumstances they were forced to put in.
Third, most of the time, women would be forced to sex with using drugs and alcohol. This would create the mood of the women themselves to be swayed away by the traffickers, so that when they do it, they tend to feel the pleasures rather than pain. Another case with drugs would be so that the women, when they do it, the traffickers will use the drugs so that the pleasure would be exponentially amplified, and ended up as the woman getting addicted to drugs and would ask for more when they feel like they want to do it again.
The fourth one, women are often taken in by promises of employment and economic opportunities, which make them migrate of their own accord. However, women often do not have a broad understanding of the real conditions that awaits them after all the migration process. After arrived at the destination country, they are trapped and forced to pay traffickers to get the documents that they need to be able to enter the country. In the end, many women cannot pay it, which leads them to experience sex trafficking. These women of course always try to leave, but they were always stopped by acts of violence and threats against themselves and their families. This then brings great fears for the women, which makes them increasingly isolated from the social environment.
Sex trafficking is a general form of economic and community violence that is also triggered by economic inequality. Many victims, namely girls and women, come from a poor family with low education and have difficulty accessing resources to support life. Many modes of criminality start with the persuasion and promises of a better economy and life with a menial job vacancies such as waitressing, acting, working as a factory workers, or household servants. Many victims also travel to the destination of the country with their own free will, but this is due to limited knowledge of the risks involved. After entering the trap, the victims are forced to become sex slaves to pay the kidnappers for the facilities and documents provided to enter the destination countries. When the victims cannot pay, the victims are made into sex slaves.
Other than that, there's a legal insecurity among women's migration, such as the lack of a document as a migrant will greatly limit the mobilization of this migrant. Where most migrant women do not have complete documents, they will have a lack option for source of employment, which tend to make them fall into prostitution. In addition, the completeness of documents is also a requirement in handling health problems, where migrants without a legal document will find it difficult to get the health services. Then, there are such abusive working and living conditions, where most of the immigrant women work as maids, cleaners, and other jobs with working hours that do not match the wages earned by this migrant. This is very stressful, where there is a pressure from the daily needs that must be met, making women migrants take the path of being involved in a dangerous option such as prostitution.
And lastly, there are still lack of legal protection, inadequate compensation for lengthy hours job uncertainty, and hazardous workplace. Women migrants are particularly vulnerable to exploitation because they worry about losing their jobs and being in prison.
Thus, we can conclude that women immigrants are part of a fragile category, whereas explained in the previous point, the presence of women as migrants tends to have a negative impact on them in the destination country. This is very unfortunate, where life as a migrant has been very difficult, especially for women migrants who experience some injustice on its daily living. Things like this, of course, need to get more attention, where most of the migrants who are basically looking for protection or seeking for work can be one of the things to pay attention to in terms of justice.